old, I up and build financial plans in front of my fireplace with a cozy blanket, my dog laying on my lap. And there's so many people that would love to have that. Or going on a holiday Tuesday because you don't work Friday 9 to 5. You get to leave when you want to, and you can work from anywhere. So really use your stories to show behind the scenes and show how great this business is. I'll even share a link to my last post where I really started calling forward what I was looking for in the business and who I wanted to attract to be on my team. And so I just shared a few clips of what the traditional office space looks like. You're in a cubicle, it's very boring. People don't know each other outside of work in most workplaces because they don't like each other. But I showed footage of actually spending time with people in this company outside of when we're at work events. And it really shows that culture because many people leave jobs not because the pay or itself isn't great. It's the environment. The toxicity sometimes comes with a lot of work environments, and this company has a culture that I've never seen before. So make sure that you're sharing that. You should be taking that time to sell the dream. And I personally have out to people on social media to tell them, hey, I'm expanding my team. I've posted and shared that we are, and then they've come to me. After this meeting today, I'm actually meeting with a girl in my hometown in person at her place of work to talk about the business because she's interested because of the last post that I made. She's a very engaged audience. Everybody knows her very, very well in this town. And so use that free platform that you have to sell the dream. Like Jay could definitely be posting, what life looked like before, his beautiful home and his yard now, showing that evidence of what this business has done for him personally. And all of you can do that as well. And so definitely it's free, use it to your advantage. It isn't to say that you have to actually reach out to these people all the time, but sell them, seeing your success, seeing the events that we have. If you've taken any little photos and videos from our last personal development event, people would love to be a part of those types of things. And the fact that our company includes in the business really with for a very small $55 is pretty affordable for the value that we got out of the last weekend. Share that stuff that we have going on in the company. The people who aren't in yet feel like they're getting like backstage access to your world, and they might start asking questions and want to be a part of it. That's really what has happened with my recruits. I didn't reach out and approach them about the opportunity. They were knocking on my door asking because they saw that I was doing big things here. Videos of me speaking on stage, everybody that's not in the company wanted to heck I was up to. And so I just shared. So be very public and vocal about what you've got here because people are super interested and they start basically selling themselves to you themselves. And it's a lot easier to onboard somebody that really wants to be here, attached to the outcome, and you're like, I want to get 5 recruits this month. People can feel that energy coming off. But if you're very unattached and you know that they need this opportunity and they need you a lot more than you need, then they're more likely to want to sell themselves to you and why they'd be a good fit for your team. So that's all I have for you today. Make sure you go check out the last post because I did a good job of selling how we are so much better traditional financial job out there. And just even take a look at the caption. It's very specific people, the location that I was looking for. And those people revealed themselves to me and started sending messages and questions. And that's all I have for you this morning.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Melissa. And guys, you can see what you're going to see three or four, probably even different kind of flavors on recruiting. That's why I wanted to make sure I had Melissa involved because I know her style is different than our style, right? And there's no one right style. And so that's great. And she also kind of, it's interesting. Her message was very new school, yet it ended on an extremely old school principle, which is assessor versus assessee, right from Ed Milet, 1994, building a big bass shop CDs, right? Like that stuff's super, super important. And I love how that all tied together. Thank you, Melissa. Good luck on your run this month. Next up, Nick Schmidt. You guys are, by now, you're aware of Nick Schmidt. He's taught lots of great classes over the past, let's call it a year or so, since he's been, kind of working his way up through the MD ranks. And there's in not too distant a future an SMD promotion sitting in front of him for sure. But I've seen him go on runs where recruiting was happening, and I've seen him go on runs where recruiting wasn't happening. And so one of the things that I draw as a huge positive out of that is that he knows how to do it. And so, Nick, the floor is yours. Teach the people.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate the opportunity. Good morning, everybody. I don't know if I have any tips per se. I'm just going to tell kind of my stories with respect to recruiting and the promotions I've received to date in the business as a result of recruiting. And maybe there's some takeaways for people in that. So, of course, unless this is like your first week, you probably know the progression from training associate to associate and then associate to MD. Training associate, you got to do a 3-3-30 to get to your associate promotion. So one of those threes means you recruited 3 people in 30 days. And then, of course, the MD is you need to have 3 licensed people on your team within a period of time and do a bunch of production stuff. So I'll talk through kind of my experience on that. And there's some do's and there's definitely some don'ts along the way if you want to take notes on that. But anyways, so I get started. I'm I got a professional background as a project manager. Have been doing it for however many umpteen years and such. And so I was very much an expert, and still I guess still am an expert in my field in my day job. And when I took this on and said, yeah, I want to actually give this a go and see if I can make this career transition happen, I was definitely not an expert in this field. And so a little bit of psychological struggle, I guess, if you will, up at the front end of it, to say, hey, can I actually do this? Will people take me seriously? All that kind of stuff. And so to get my 3-3-30, here's what I did. The 3 recruiting part of it anyways. First recruit was my wife. So maybe that might have been one of my best ones so far. I actually recruited her over 12 years ago, but she signed her AA about 3-4 years ago, whatever that was. Why did I recruit my wife? Number of reasons. Obviously wanted to make sure she was very aware and supportive within the business, and she has been absolutely. She was my first event. Ed Milet was coming into Edmonton, and there was a leadership meeting the day before the meeting, where Ed Milet was also going to be speaking, and we needed to have 1 recruit in our business the month prior to that, or something like that. Anyways. And I was like brand new. I mean, brand new. And so picking up the phone was a bit of a no-go at that point for me specifically. Anyways, I recruited my wife and I got in that meeting, and it was an awesome opportunity to hear from Ed and Greg and Cam. Where I think they were kind of doing a bit of a sitting on a couch hosting session, a bit of an interview style session there, and it was awesome. So, anyways, wife was the first recruit. She's still around. She's licensed in the business right now. So. Big help in that regard. My next recruit, young guy, I coached in football. I coach with him in football now. Really mature for his years, brought him in, thought he'd be great. And he quit before he got to the parking lot after doing his AA. Jay remembers it too. It was looking back kind of funny, but at the time, man, I don't know if Jay picked up on it or not, but I needed a hug or something. Like, I was devastated that somebody would just completely not ghost me, but quit before they even gave themselves a shot. Thought that this was something that it wasn't. All the negative things that we hear every once in a while, that all came through. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't ever want to recruit anybody ever again. But at that point, I had my 2 out of 3 for the month. I thought, well, I might as well keep making phone calls. So I called another kid that I coached football with, intrigued him, came out to the office, saw the BPM, did his follow-up interview the next day, and did his AA. He didn't end up doing anything either, but I got my 3 and I had 3 clients done and I got promoted at that time on the spot. So maybe not the smoothest way to get to your 330, but that's how I did it, and that's what worked, and that's got me to my first promotion in the first month of me being licensed in the business. Now we'll talk about MD. So as I go through this, I'm very much a cut twice, measure once kind of a guy, as opposed to the other way around, which you probably should be. So it takes me a little bit of time. Like I got to learn the lesson the hard way twice, and then we figure it out from there. So, anyways, the short version of this is I've been around in the business for 4 years. I got my MD promotion last March. So call it 3.5 years into the business. Certainly a lot longer than it should have taken, than it needed to take. But 2 times prior to that, I had 2 licensed agents on my team, and I had multiple people studying to get that 3rd license, that elusive 3rd license. And I just went into autopilot and just sat back, and I thought, okay, well, eventually one of these people that's studying is going to get licensed, and I'll get my promotion. The points weren't going to be a problem. And then June came along. And so what happens in June? Does anybody know what happens in June in our business? We'll see if anybody's quick in the chat. No. I'll talk it through just so I'm not blowing up. Yes, license renewal. Twice. We got to June and I had 2 licenses. Guess how many of those licenses renewed? 0. Guess how many of the people that were studying that seemed like surefire things didn't actually finish the course and didn't get their license? 0. Twice I went from 2 licenses, only needing 1 more to get my marketing director promotion, and I went back down to 0. Twice. Cut twice, measure once. That's how I learned in this business anyways. So I would suggest that, again, if you wanted a tip, don't do that. Don't do that. Recruiting is the answer ultimately, right? Recruiting is the answer. So if you're stuck in your business, if you're working towards that promotion, you think you got the players in your base shop already or on your team already, that's great. Support them and build them up and help them along to get to where they want to be. But do not wait for them. Go get yourself some more people and help them. Our business is a numbers game. I won't get too deep into that, but it's inevitable. The more people you bring into your business, obviously, the more that are going to get licensed, the more families you're going to help. You keep bringing in new people and bringing in new excitement to your team. Those promotional milestones are just a matter of time. So, Jay, maybe I'll take myself off the hook and I'll give it back to you there at that.
No, man, that was great. I love those stories. It was a great cautionary tale that you told us there. It's don't sit back and turn into a manager, right? We want to always driving forward to those promotions. That's great. Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you drive to your next one. That's going to be awesome. Speaking of promotions, we got Greg Braun coming up next. Some of you guys are just kind of becoming aware of Greg Braun. Really, I suppose all of us are, because he's only been with us for like 3 or 4 months. But we were sitting in my office having a great chat. We talked about recruiting for maybe an hour at some point last week, as a commission statement popped up that earned his promotion to marketing director. And so we had a cool moment where I could show him that had happened. And man, this guy comes from great leadership with Justin and Amy, and of course Curtis, and setting a pace somewhere in the neighborhood of 110,000 personal points in his first 3-4 months in the business. And the next step for him is now growing the licensed field force that will help him get to SMD and beyond. So, Greg Braun, brother, the floor is yours.
Right on. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate the opportunity to talk and share a bit about what I've learned over the last 3 or 4 months. I've had great leadership, like Jay said. Justin's a great guy to sit and talk and share and coach and mentor. And I got, book after book full of notes. But what I was not doing was not applying those notes to my recruiting side. I was so focused on the points and I was so focused on, meeting with people and writing business that I overlooked the recruiting side of things. And now, yes, I hit MD, but that was on points. But now I'm like, I need SMD. So in order to get to the next target, which is what I'm focused on right now, is I need to start recruiting. I need to start building my team. I need. So that's my goal now, is just on the recruiting side of things. So a few things that I learned. So for those that don't really know me a whole lot, I've only been with the WFG now for 5 months. So I'm new. I'm still wet behind the ears. I got a lot to learn, and I'm trying to soak it in as much as I can. But one thing that I've been since day one is coachable. I've always considered myself coachable with the business side of things, and I kind of ignored the recruiting side of things because it intimidated me. I was not comfortable trying to recruit people and I didn't have the right experience or verbiage to share with them. Okay. I knew what I wanted to say, but I would say too much. And Justin kept telling me, Greg, don't tell them the whole movie. Just give them the preview. Entice them. Get them to want to sit down with you. And I'm like, it makes so much sense now, right? Like I'm saying too much. And then I got into this, and next thing you know, I'm rambling on for 10, 15 minutes, and they're like, yeah, no, thanks. There's no reason to sit down with me because they knew it all, right? But what we have to show for presentation and information is very valuable, and that's what gets them hooked. So sat down with Jay last week for about half an hour, 45 minutes, took a bunch of notes. I went 3-hour drive after that, listened to a lot of recordings and stuff, and just pondered and stuff, and started reaching out to guys that I had on the fence. And, I started talking to them and saying, listen, man, like, there's an opportunity here. It's pretty unique, but I said, there's some senior leadership in our company that want to meet with you. They want to sit down with you. Okay. I've told them about you. They're enticed. They're intrigued. Are you up for it? The one guy was like, yeah, right on. That's awesome. He says, that's such a big opportunity. He says, let me talk to my wife. Next day he comes back to me. Yeah, my wife's not interested in that. And, I have to support her. So I'm sorry, I got to pass. And I'm just like, whatever, man. I said, it is what it is. I'm extending an olive branch, to each their own. The other guy was like, bang, he's on it. So I messaged Jay yesterday. I says, Jay, this guy wants to meet with you. And he's like, absolutely, set it up. So we have a meeting set up with him for next week. One of the things I was doing that I regret was I was making people's decision for them before even allowing them the opportunity to hear the information. And I discredited them. And I was actually the one guy that's meeting next week. When it come time to talking about the business on the presentation meeting, I was actually very awkward and embarrassed to bring it up. And I watched his eyes, because Justin was on this one with me, and I watched him. I had the chance to sit back and watch his facial expressions. And as Justin was talking about the business, this guy was literally looking at the camera and just getting right in on the screen. And I was like, whoa, he's interested. I'm like, I never would have thought this. This guy's a corporate health and safety manager for a huge pipeline company. He makes really good money. But he's like enticed. He's like interested. He wants to know more. So we're meeting with Jay next week, which is pretty awesome. So you've heard it said many times. I'll say it again. When you're talking to people, passionate and energy in your voice needs to be there, because they're not going to bite if they don't see the energy and the excitement in your eyes and in your voice. So when you're talking to anybody and talk to everybody, I recruited a guy yesterday, and I got to follow up with him and set up an FTA with him. But I recruited a guy at a Speedy Lube shop in Athabasca yesterday. A young kid, he's 22 years old. I asked him, you keeping your options open? What's your future hold? He's like, I don't know, man. I was like, you ever thought about the financial industry? No. I said, you and I got to sit down, man. I got to show you some cool stuff. Yeah, I like that. So I sent him my text, and we got that set up for early next week. So. Yeah, lots to learn, guys, but you got a lot of great leadership in this group that have a lot of different strategies and different ways of talking to people, different language. My advice is talk to as many as you can, formulate your own script, your own thing out of all that, and then go out and push it in and put it in play, and you'll see results. I'm starting to see results now after 5-6 months in the business. Not too late, because I still have a lot of work to do, but I can see the growth, and it's going to come. So thanks for the opportunity, Jay. Appreciate it.
Great job to all three. I can't help but draw the comparisons, as I tend to do, to the Yankees, right? You guys all know I'm a big New York Yankees fan, and if you go back through the history of that team, the next great players always emerged, right? There was Ruth and Gehrig and Mantle and Mattingly, and then you go through, and then Jeter shows up, and A-Rod's there, and Aaron Judge comes along, and Gary Sanchez was a big thing for a while, and there's all these players, and then I hop on a call this morning, and I see three of the next big players that are coming up throughout the team. Just teams that teams have a way of finding the next great players, teams that win. Anyway, and you find those next. Hey, all three of them were recruited. You know what I mean? They didn't knock on our door and come be great players for us, right? They were recruited. They were put on lists. They were, however many different ways there are to recruit people as a result of that. So, Guy, I'm just so thrilled that the three of you guys chose to be on our team. Thank you so much. And great job this morning. So obviously I have notes. I mean, I got notes for days, and for any of you that have been in classes of mine, I don't even tend to need notes. Sometimes I can do a couple hours without notes. But one of the things I'm curious about, I put it in the chat, but I didn't see anything pop up yet. And you'll need, I've got it so that you can't unmute yourself. So you got to put the little yellow hand up. But I'm curious what questions you've got this morning. Like, when parts of my business are not going, exactly to plan the way that I think they are, I know there's always questions in my mind, and I've got to go get them answered. I'm curious what questions you've got. I'm going to start with Fola. Go ahead, brother.
So the main concern is this, you do a great presentation, they're intrigued, and then you get to showing them the process, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. Like, what exactly do I say in a position like that? Or is there a question I can ask them, just to like help them feel better and just believe in themselves?
Yes. So I want to confirm, Fola, just give me a thumbs up if I'm right. The question was, you've got now the concept of intrigues, but sometimes you're getting them into the meeting and they're like, I don't know. Is that kind of like, is that where we're at? Okay, perfect. So for those of you with cameras on and I can see you, is this something you've experienced? Wonderful. Like, that was 100% of the people that had their cameras on put their hands up. So here's what happens. Okay, here's what happens. They're all humans, okay? And humans are unbelievably insecure creatures. Unbelievably insecure. Okay? All of us at some, you're like, oh, yeah, Jay, I don't know about you sometimes. Trust me, big time. Okay? And so it's very natural and normal to be sitting in a room with somebody or sitting on a Zoom with someone, and they're here. I want you to picture it from their perspective. Okay? They're already like kind of scared to meet you. They don't really know what it is. They have no experience in it. And humans don't do things that humans don't know how to do. And so for them I would want you to almost to view that as just the most totally normal possible response, that they're a little nervous and they don't totally believe themselves. Okay, so that's step number one. Step number two is now you're immediately into a leadership role. When you recruit someone, you assume that role. So you might as well assume that role as you're about to recruit someone. Okay, so Fola's question is, they don't believe in themselves. What do I do? You start to identify things that you see about them, things you've heard in conversation with them. Okay, this is step number one, right? I go, Fola, look, man, I know you're nervous. I know this is totally new for you, right? But let me tell you what I see. Number one, brother, you're just so, I've been hanging out with you for 45 minutes now. You're just a kind guy. You know what I mean? And people need kind people to help them with their money. They need them to sit there and listen and understand what they need and go find it. And I just think you're going to be tremendously successful doing that, right? Or I might go, you're just an unbelievable communicator and you smile when you talk, right? And people are just going to be, they're be so attracted to coming to work with you. And I'm just going to tell them things that I see that are true, right? I'm not going to make anything up, right? But I'm going to tell him things I see about him that are reasons he will win. And I'm going to pour belief on him because he doesn't have any, right? I'm going to be the source of it until he doesn't need that anymore. Okay, so that's step number one. Step number two, and it may or may not be in your personality to do. It's in my person. I can only teach things that are in my personality to do. I like to look at somebody in that scenario after I've done that. Okay, after I've done that, I've said this 1,000 times. I'll look at him and I go, look, I'm going to work with you. I'm going to coach you. And under my leadership, you're going to be successful. Right? So I want to help build up. I want them to see and things that they intrinsically know to be true about themselves and connect that to why they're going to win. And then I'm going to let them know, hey, I got you. Okay, together we're going to do this. Great question, Fuller. Really good. Melissa, Hala.
Now, I kind of touched on this earlier that I've never made a phone call and I don't actually talk to people and message them on social media. How do you get over like the anxiety to somebody and mentioning the opportunity? Because I, post and attract and then they come. I don't like pursuing. It makes me super anxious. So what kind of mindset do you get yourself into to actually approach somebody?
So for me, really good question. I'm always nervous of the questions where it's like into my personality because we all have different ones. You know what I mean? And so, oh, sorry, I gotta mute somebody, and I hope I don't lose my train of thought on this question. Okay, so I did. What was the question again? It was how do
you get approaching somebody with the opportunity, whether that's in person or even sending a message on social?
So I have this very clear very clear vision of my of a business with no people in it. You know what I mean? And I realized that business doesn't go very far. And we sometimes have to convince ourselves and remind ourselves that recruiting is normal. Recruiting is mainstream. Recruiting is the way of business, right? The nature of businesses are to grow, to shrink. And we don't want to have businesses that shrink. And so, right, I don't know if you've ever driven by a McDonald's on hiring day. You know what I mean? It's like hiring day. Do you know what else it could say? It's recruiting day, right? You ever driven? Like how do kids end up in universities? They're recruited. How do I end up in the military? I'm recruited. How do I end up in the police force? I'm recruited. How do I end up anywhere? Right? How does Burger King have employees? They're recruited. Like recruiting is as normal as breathing. Right? And so the only disconnect there sometimes is that we've just never been in the position to be the recruiter before. Right? And so sometimes it takes a little bit of extra work to kind of realize that, hey, this isn't weird at all. Right? Because I'm either going to be recruiting people to come help me build, or somebody's going to recruit me to go build theirs. And I'd rather be building mine. Right. And so obviously today I don't need to convince myself of these things anymore, but there was a time that I did. And those were the kind of thoughts that I hope that helped. Great question. And do you know what I just realized? It was my own echo that I was searching for who was unmuted and threw myself off. Charlton Simmons, what's up? Can't hear you, bro. Can you guys hear him?
Can you hear me now?
You gotcha. Yeah.
All right. Hey, I want to know, how do you keep an AA engaged when they aren't doing what is needed, and for how long do you keep after them?
So how do I keep a new agent that's not engaged?
Correct.
Yeah, that's a really, you guys have all experienced this already, haven't you? And do you know what's interesting? There's no one answer. There's no silver bullet. This is one of those scenarios where you're kind of just doing the best that you can. I asked this question of four pretty big time base shop leaders, and they all gave me four really different answers. I know the stage of the business that you're at, obviously, because you're in my base shop. And so I know that, you don't have 30 or 40 people running around your base to go pay attention to someone else instead. But there is coming a time that you will. And so I kind of give you this. You do your best to find something that will excite them. Okay. It's the reason there's so many contests. It's the reason, there's so many, that there's a training now, on a Wednesday and on a Saturday. And not everybody's going to do it. It's unfortunate, you would wish that people would remember the reasons they got started in WFG and the big things they were going to do once they got their license. The unfortunate reality is they're just not everybody's going to do that, right? But there are lots of different ways to do WFG. Okay, it's one of the things I talk about when I talk about the referral license strategy. There's not just one way. I feel like we were all brought up, and it was probably just in our own minds. I don't think anybody ever told it to us that there's only one way to do WFG. It's build a top 100 and get out on 25 field training appointments and then do 25 appointments a week for the rest of your life. Like, that's not the only way to do it. There's passive referral license. There's active referral license. There's a wide spectrum of different things that it can be. And so I think that probably for some people that are just like not getting it, they're not engaged, they're not talking in the chat, not showing up to training. We might possibly be expecting something of them that they don't want to do. And so I think it's probably good to have, that kind of conversation, figure out what they want, and then just see if you can find something to keep them excited. And if you can't do that, right, then just be friends. Stay in touch. Don't talk business when you do. But obviously we want to remain friendly always. So that's what I got on that. Good. Any more questions? Those were three pretty good ones. Those were insightful. I got Donna McCormick. Hit me, Donna.
Yeah, my question is, how do you draw a list from people of names? I mean, I've gone through the jogger and, asked them all the key questions, and still I find, a lot of people don't want to talk to their friends and family. How do you get past that step, get them going?
This is kind of like a tap rooting question, right? Like, yeah. You got a new recruit. Let's get out in the field.
Yeah.
So I think that people are reluctant to build big lists when they don't totally understand what the list is for. Right. It's 12 years ago, but I remember sitting down at Greg's desk in his old office with the printed, top 25, top 100 sheet, and being at 14 names. And in my head going, I don't know who this list is for. And I'm scared that if I write somebody's name down, I'm going to have to call them and I don't know what to say. So I'm just not going to write it. I remember that. Right. And so it's kind of like when I'm in a recruiting meeting, what I'm trying to do a lot of times is anticipate what the questions are going to be before the questions come up and answer them before they come up. Okay. Now you can't just do that when you're brand new. It's not a innate ability that comes with a lot of experience. Right. But if I know that I'm sitting down I just recruited Ryan Santiago and we're sitting down at my desk. Right. And I know, because I did it, that he's thinking, if I write this name down, I might have to call them and I don't know what to say. I'm just not going to write it down. And I know that he's thinking, is this list for Jay? Right? If I know that he's thinking those two things before I even start to ask him to write names down on a list, I'm going to go, Ryan, let's talk about why we build a prospect. Right? Let's talk about all the great things that are going to come as a result of it. Let's talk about who it's for. By the way, the people you're going to write on this list, they're 35, 40 years old, and nobody's called them yet. And if we don't call them, maybe nobody's ever going to call them on the things you're going to be able to do. Right? And by the way, Ryan, before I ever have you call anybody, I'm going to teach you what to say. We're going to work on it. You'll be comfortable with that language. Okay. Now, out of curiosity, and now we just get in to start building the list. And so I hope that helps. I want to alleviate as many fears as I can before we start to build it. Okay. Great question. Vitko is next. I think we might just do quick Q&A today. This could be fun. Yeah. Hi, Vitka.
Hi. You mentioned that there is 3 different ways to be in to do WFG. You mentioned it active and passive referral license. What's the difference between two of them?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can elaborate on that a little bit more. So Greg used to do this training. It was funny. I was on stage in the leadership meeting when this connected in my brain for me. But Greg used to do this training where it was like there's 4 different people that you can be in WFG. I just don't think he meant it in this context. But he used to say you can be part-time, not urgent. You can be part-time urgent. You can be full-time, not urgent, and you can be full-time urgent. He used to kind of put those 4 different kind of classifications of different agents in place, and it kind of clued into me. I'm like, yeah, there's different ways to be an associate. There's different ways to allocate your time as a licensed person. And so this is my 6 recruiting drivers, this is the one I'm the most, I'm so scared somebody will use it wrong, because this is the only one that will hurt you if you use it wrong. Right? If you've got somebody who wants to be an urgent player, you don't present this. Okay, you don't present this. Okay, my mortgage broker Danny was never coming to do this. Okay, but he meets lots of people who need insurance, and he was excited to get paid to send referrals. So he got a license, and we wrote 10,000 points in the last 30 days. Okay, so he is a active referral license, meaning that he's kind of looking for people to refer. Okay, he knows what to listen for. Okay, we just got a mortgage, we need insurance. We're having a baby, we need insurance. My investments aren't growing very well. He knows what to listen for. He's actively kind of looking for it, and then he connects us when he hears it. Okay, a passive referral license, they're not searching for it. I'm just teaching them to listen in conversations as they live their life. Their goal is to send 2-3 referrals a year, right? Make a little bit more than their license cost. That's the main difference. So one is actively looking for people to refer, and one is just allowing it to happen. Yeah, really good question. Ryan Santiago, then Rohit.
Hey, Jay.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, so I wrote this down actually when you did your last class. So when you decided on I'm gonna go and get 100 directs in the next 12 months before Vegas, my question is, what does Jay believe about WFG or himself that I need to believe in order to hit my recruiting goals for the next 12 months? Wow. And how did you get there?
Man, that's such a good question. I mean, number one, I heard Milet talk about, the old, everybody wants in, they just don't know it stuff back in the day. I believed it though. I still believe it to be true because I've seen it so many times. Right. So I do have that belief that everybody wants in WFG. Some people just don't know it yet, which causes me to never take anybody off a list. So there's that. Okay. I'm struggling with giving you the rest of the answer. I'm just struggling with it. Because I'm nervous about how it's going to sound is all. Can I just say it? Can I say it out loud? I was asked, okay? I think I'm the best recruiter that there's ever been in the company. Whether I am or not doesn't matter. I'm sure that I am. And so you know what's funny? I was trying to articulate this to Leanne the other night. I finished it. I did an appointment with Greg Gopo on Ralph's team. And my presentation was so tight. My ability to read his reactions and what he was saying was so tight because I've done so many appointments. Like, I could get this guy to do anything. You can get to a point where your skills are so sharp, your presentation is so good that you can dictate the outcome to a very high probability, not to 100, but to a very high probability. And so where that answer came from was just simply this. I've done a lot of meetings over a lot of years. I've recruited a ton of people, and I've been in scenarios where I felt really confident, and I've been in scenarios where I felt less confident. And I know the difference between the two now. And so I just choose to believe I'm the best there ever was. And in all honesty, oh God, Ryan, you put me on the spot with this. Let me tell you, you know what? You guys want to know why 100? Because nobody in Canada has done it. And I want to show that I want to be the best. Sorry about that. I hope nobody thinks less of me after that answer. I'm just a confident guy, and it came from experience. It wasn't innate. Great question. I hope that helped. Rohit.
Hi, Jay. Thanks. So yeah, my question is that I mean, I've started doing field training appointments with you since the past 2 weeks, and it's going great. But I think one of the issues that I'm probably facing is with respect to my prospect list. Like, just the way you mentioned to me when I just started and signed up during the AA agreement that I have not been in Canada as long as compared to the people, most of the people who are in this meeting right now. I've been only here for 2 years now, and I do not know those many people. And the ones that I know, they are students like me. So the best in my hand is to approach them to tell them what I do. But at the end of the day, even they are students, and majority of them have their set of ambitions with respect to the career line they want to go in, and some of them are in the process of doing that, and most of them are very reluctant to even hear about this. And even if I tell them, even if I get them till the training process, and in the process to get them for a meeting, and they get very reluctant because at the end of the day they are students and they are new over here. So to even trust that kind of opportunity, which eventually might be great for them, might benefit them, but for me, I feel the only issue that I am facing is the contacts, because I feel I don't know a lot of people even from a university, and the ones that I know, they have their set line of career. So I was just wondering that how do I go about this? Because if not in the university, I could, like, if the people at my gym or something, I could contact them as well. But again, I need to articulate it very well. So if you could just help me out with that, then I feel I would be in a much better spot to get more people for the meeting.
Absolutely. Great question. By the way, you guys, you're going to get to know the name Rohit Mandrakar. This guy's going to be a stud. There was a time when Lena was really struggling. Okay, she was very young, and her market was very young. And she would write a little bit of business and it would charge back. She would recruit somebody, they would quit. And she's like, she eventually came to us and she's like, I'm struggling. She's like, my market is so young. What do I do? We said, talk to older people. When you're prospecting, you get to choose.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, Jay, I'm having trouble with these students. Yeah, of course you are. They have no idea what they want to do yet, and they're 20 years old, right? And so as we're prospecting, we prospect for what we want. Okay, we get to dictate what our market is, right? There's a great leader down in California that I know quite well named Matthew Welsh, right? Matthew got started super young too, but he wanted an older team and an older market. There was a point in time where I think he was probably the youngest person on his team, right? He just, what we look for, we find. Okay, what we look for, we find. So when I'm prospecting, when I'm at the mall, when I'm on social media looking for people, right? I'm looking not for what I am necessarily, okay? But although what I am will be attracted to me anyway, right? But I get to dictate what I'm looking for, right? So that's kind of like my, I know that's not specific, although it's a little bit specific. But you kind of, so dictate in your mind, okay, what do I want? Who am I prospecting? Okay. I'm prospecting 40-year-olds today. Okay. When I ask for referrals today, what am I asking for? I'm asking for referrals to married people with kids who are over 32. That you can get specific with.
Right.
And it's not going to happen overnight because nothing will. But if that's a consistent effort, that's what your market will become.
Thank you.
Awesome question. Rusty and Leah.
Hey Jay, great class, everybody. It's been very informative. I love the Q&A. And man, I don't think there's any harm in chasing a bit of glory. I mean, some of us, this business is built for all different kinds of people, and that is part of it. And I'm one of those guys. I like to set new bars, and there's nothing wrong with it, man. So my question around the recruiting and the mindset. So I've recruited some people over the last few years, and they've fallen off. So I've got it in my head that, like, how do you approach the people that were on their prospect list? You see some value, there's potential recruits there, but how do you and that's where I'm struggling, is approach those people. Your recruit was the contact previously, and now they've dropped off. How do you kind of approach that, or what's the mindset around following up with all those people?
Yeah, Ed gave us a great script way back in the day where he said, he would kind of reach out to the person that quit and say, hey, here, let me tell you why I'm disappointed. Let me tell you why I'm disappointed, that we're not going to move forward together. I thought and then I give him the stuff that I gave in an earlier answer somewhere where it's like, here, I thought you would have been great because of this and because of this. It's unfortunate, but I got to tell you what, I'm going to continue in your absence. I'm going to continue to work our business plan together. Mm-hmm. Which meant I'm calling your list. Right? I'm going to continue to work our business plan together. As we were planning to reach out and help a couple people. I'm just going to let you know I'm going to do that. So I always start with, I would be starting with, the person that quit. And then I'm going to bring that up in the phone call. Hey, I was connected, your name came across my desk. I was working with a guy named, Logan Abbott. Unfortunately, right now, the business isn't going to work out for him, but he told me all kinds of great things about you. I thought I ought to make contact and just see if our business can be a fit and help you in some way. I'd kind of do it like that.
Right on. Thanks, Jay.
You're welcome. Great question. Speaking of Logan Abbott.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So this is actually like really great class too. I'm taking tons of notes here. The question that I have today is, we were talking a lot earlier about like one of the most important aspects of trying to get people to become a part of your team is the passion and energy. One of the things that I have noticed myself over the past couple of years is I've noticed that with consistent derailments, I've noticed that my energy level has started to falter in some situations. What are some things that you guys as their leadership do to try and catch yourself and rebound your energy so that when you can go and have these conversations around recruitment, you can keep that same level of excitement at it so that you're not kind of derailing yourself before you can give yourself an opportunity to express the potential of what can be done here?
Yeah, I mean, good. I mean, we're all, we're humans, right? Like you're not always going to be at a 10 out of 10. You can give yourself a reminder going into a meeting, though, that the person that you're going to meet with needs you to be at a certain level of energy, right? If we're in a business of helping people, and we're gonna best help them if we're up and we're excited and we show them. Then nothing wrong with getting a little sticky note, and popping that on your computer, or just a quick reminder, before you go into a meeting. It can be artificial, don't make it fake, but it can be artificial. But I think maybe a bigger answer is like just reminding yourself often how awesome it's going to be when, right? Like if I'm not there in the moment to speak higher law to you, speak higher law to yourself, right? There's so many great things. There's so many things to be excited about, that there's that. And then another one is like, God, how do I even word this? Like you can go, I don't know if you guys know this. You can go into my WFG and you can search what the award winners at convention were last year. And you can see what the numbers were, right? And you'll be like, okay, I've been a little bit unfocused. I want to walk the stage for this. What do I need to do? Right? And then just like, it just gets your it's because there's not always an event. You know what I mean? Like there's not a Vegas event every month that can get you refocused and like, okay, cool, I'm ready to go again. And so I use those little triggers like that, right? Sometimes I'll go in, or I'll look at, whatever. There's a couple teams that, that are ahead of us, we prefer weren't, that kind of thing. I'll go look at some numbers and get refocused and get excited. And I do keep a little note right here on my computer that says sell the dream, right? I got that there too. Just little reminders of how good it's going to be when, hopefully something in that. It's probably time for one more, if there's one more out there. I was going to take like a question or two. We did the whole class. You guys were great today. You kept good questions coming. All right, cool. So let's finish up on this. So you have to be, okay, or I guess in your notes, I have to be. There's 4 things I'm going to add to that. Okay, the first one is proactive. I have to be proactive. I say these things to myself. Okay, I have to be proactive, because if I show up here on Tuesday after a half a day Saturday, Sunday, probably not doing anything. Monday's a holiday. I might come in for a few hours, make some phone calls. If I show up here on a Tuesday and think I'm going to put together enough appointments to hit the targets that I've got, I probably got another thing coming. I've got to be proactive. Yeah, I know my targets for the month are 8 direct recruits and 50,000 personal points. You don't need to have the same targets as me. Those are just my targets. I know I can't just allow the month to happen to me and make those goals. So I got to be proactive, right? I sat in this chair yesterday for hours, making phone calls, getting intrigues, talking to teammates, field training appointments, and I look at my schedule for next week. You guys know me talking about Saturday afternoon standards. Hey, my standard was met on Friday, but I'm still going to book more today. I got to be proactive, right? Hey, 8 direct recruits in a month doesn't just happen. You got to get after that. Okay. 2, got to be busy. Okay. I've got to be proactive and I've got to be busy. The number of appointments that we do is going to dictate success or failure. Okay. It's going to dictate frustration or fun. If you got an appointment or 2 in your book, you're gonna not get what you want. I know you guys want big things. You wouldn't be here on a Saturday morning. Okay. And it does. Hey, if you're just getting started and you got 1, 2, 3 appointments, good. Let's build on that. Okay. Let's get it to 4, 5, 6 next week. Get to 7, 8, 9 the week after. Okay. Let's build on it. So I got to be proactive. I got to be busy. I got to be intentional. It's probably similar to proactive, I guess. I got to be intentional. I'm doing things with an outcome in mind. right? I'm booking a certain number of recruiting appointments with an outcome in mind. The outcome is 8. Why 8? Because if I do 8 for 12 months, it's 100. I gotta be intentional. Why 50,000 personal? Because if I do 50,000 personal, the odds of somebody in my base shop doing 20,000 is better. And if I do 50,000, I know I'll hit $1 million here in the next 12, 18 months, something like that. That works for me. Intentional. And fourth one, I need to be creative. Okay, I need to be creative. I can't keep doing the exact same thing over and over again. Okay, it's like banging your head off a wall eventually. It's like trying to talk to somebody from Primerica. Just banging my head against the window. Did I say that out loud on a call? Anyway, you got to be creative. There's lots of different places to find people, right? By the way, that's the question Rohit asked. Jay, how do I be creative? How do I find a new market that's different? Okay, there's lots of places. There's people everywhere. There's old lists, right? There's clients. There's different ways to ask for referrals. There's people you've emailed in the past. There's people that you used to live beside. There's people you went to school with. There's people you played a sport with. There's the same person that you see in the gym all the time. They're everywhere. Okay. But when we don't write those kinds of things down, they can feel overwhelming, and then we don't end up doing any of them. So get specific with what you're going to do. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I had fun. I was like the doctor today. I got to just prescribe things. So that was cool. Anyway, have a wonderful weekend. Eat lots. We'll work it all off next week. Don't worry about it. Anyway, see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Just thought there. Yeah, it's nice they give you an option where it says my name and my phone number right on it. Hey, Mr. Curtis! It's okay. I'm gonna find you. Or he just doesn't want to listen. So anyway, it's kind of way we can. You have the same
you back. I was coming.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
No worries.
Cassie, this is Tracy. Cassie. Hi. Good to meet you. Nice to meet you. What are you guys up to now? We actually have oh good.